A lot of people who are liking Kathal are liking the absurdities of it. We have met a cop struggling with his own case where his bike had gotten stolen. Bundelkhand is a very colorful place, heavily dominated by fault lines of caste, class, political clout, gun wielding characters, a lot of violence. Me and Karunesh, we've known each other since college. We've done theater together as well, and I'm a huge admirer of his brand of humor. I personally feel that humor acts as a great icebreaker between you and the audience. They are willing to trust you just a little bit more. I'm very happy that it's creating. It's become a catalyst for dialogue in a deeply polarized world like ours.
Hello and welcome to the DeadAnt ChatRoom. I'm your host Bhanush Kathal, and joining me today is Yashowardhan Mishra, the director and co-writer of satirical Netflix comedy Kathal. Welcome to the show, Yash.
Hi Bhanush, thank you for having me.
So you've got this new film out, which is about, the story starts with two jackfruits that go missing from a local politician's garden. Can you tell us more about the film for those who haven't seen it yet?
It's a satirical comedy, as you rightly said. It's out on Netflix. It's a film based on an absurd incident which actually happened around a decade ago, on which I developed a story at that point of time. It's truly unbelievable. Two jackfruits have been missing from an influential politician's garden, and he uses his powers, his political powers, to get the entire police force going in search of the Kathals. The film looks at how politicians and people in power use the system while neglecting other cases which might be more relevant and more important. So it kind of is like a contrast between the realities of life and the way the bureaucracy is forced to look away from them.
And so that news story you said you came across 10 years ago. So that would have been just the seed of the idea. How did you develop that? How did you go about researching this?
Yeah, at that point of time, I was really excited by the story because I found it so truly absurd. I thought that it'll make for an excellent satire. So at that time, I'll be very honest, it was just a short story written at that time, and also I'd written it thinking the central character was a male cop at that point of time. But over the years, I developed a lot of different kind of ideas and started looking at issues and politics from a different lens, from a more feminist lens also. Because in our research, we met a lot of these female cops, and we realized that the subject matter that we are dealing with in the second half of the story of the film, which is the case of the missing girls, and incidents like child trafficking and crimes against women especially, there is a difference between a male cop and a female cop dealing with those cases. Female cops treat it with a lot more empathy and a lot more investment in the case, and we realize that we can create a wonderful character out of Mahima here, and also work on giving her more shades, and that's when the more dimensions came into being. Essentially, a lot of Kathal is inspired by the research that we did while before writing, actually. We went to Bundelkhand. We met a lot of wonderful cops there. We met a lot of politicians as well. We tried to understand the psyche of the place. And we borrowed a lot of ideas for the subplots as well of the film from our research, essentially. So if you look at the love story, if you look at the character of Mishra, of Kunti, all of these characters which create a multidimensional world of Kathal, which is filled with intersectionalities. So we found that from our research, and I feel I give a lot of credit to that process.
And so, I mean, Bundelkhand is quite an interesting place. Are there any, what is the weirdest or the most out there story that you heard? Maybe something that you couldn't use in the film, because I don't want to use it as a spoiler, but...
I mean, a lot of people who are liking Kathal are liking the absurdities of it. They're talking about how absolutely random things happen at certain points of time, but they seem believable, and that is because we have taken it from real life. I mean, we have met a cop who was struggling with his own case where his bike had gotten stolen, and he was trying to struggle with that himself, being a cop, being a constable. So all of these things are so absurd, are so weird. They almost seem unbelievable. but then when we put it in and we dramatize them, it kind of starts becoming real. So yeah, Bundelkhand is a very colorful place. It's a place which is heavily dominated by fault lines of caste, class, political clout, gun wielding characters, a lot of violence. So we picked the kind of resources that we would need to cook up this satire. We wanted to stay away from the stereotypical image of chambal and gun wielding goons and a lot of violence. We wanted to make a film, a very non-violent film, essentially. Although the things that we are talking about are very violent and very serious. However, I felt that it would have been easier to strike a conversation with the audience using humor throughout. Yeah, because I personally feel that humor acts as a great icebreaker between you and the audience. They are willing to trust you just a little bit more, when we break the ice that way, we wanted to continue in the same vein. Hence, when the film becomes darker in the second half and also reaches a place where we meet the kidnappers and we meet the person whom they are trying to sell the girl to, they also are in that absurd, whimsical kind of a universe. So those characters have. So we have tried to stay true to the tone of the film because that we have taken from the initial incident, which itself is quite absurd.
And so, like, there's often a very thin line between using humor to sort of lighten the mood or to provide context to it all, and then the tragedy itself becoming the punchline. So, how do you walk that line? How difficult was it for you to balance these two sides?
Yeah, it was certainly difficult because farce and reality, those lines have to be treaded very carefully. You can always go on the other side, and also when we talk about these communities that we are talking about, the characters, the communities that the characters represent in the film, it comes with a lot of responsibility. So it was. We were always checking ourselves whether this kind of humor would pass or not. Perhaps we may I feel mostly the film has been successful because, and this is basis the kind of comments that I'm reading. It's become a catalyst for conversations. Essentially, people may agree or disagree with the film, but they're talking about it, and that I feel was really important for us. I'm very happy that it's creating. It's become a catalyst for dialogue in a deeply polarized world like ours. I think that's a line that we had to tread, and we always were falling back to the humor, to the satire of the film, to create, to just diffuse the tension at that exact moment. So just when you feel that the film is becoming dark and it's reaching a space of uncertainty, comes a scene which snaps you out of it. The middle section of the film, essentially the night when Birwa Mali comes to the Kotwali, a lot of dramatic incidents happen. A lot of truths are unveiled. But in the middle of those, we have tried to infuse some moments which are true to the basic tone of the film, which is the comedy, which is the absurdity of it. So you have a Mishra who's still struggling to, who's pitching his daughter for marriage to Saurabh. So you have the lawyer Kunti's husband coming in with his potatoes. So those kind of things diffuse the tension at all times. So we were very much interested in following that kind of a pattern while writing Kathal.
Did you have any particular challenges shooting this in Bundelkhand, especially with the sort of caste and gender, as well as police and political power aspects of the story that you're telling?
Not really, actually. We shot this in Gwalior and we had great support, great local support. I'll always be indebted to the people of Gwalior who really helped us. We shot this at around this point of time last year when it was really hot. And in spite of all the challenges of the weather, the people came together to really help us tell the story. So yeah, not really too many challenges as such. Also, the police force of Gwalior and Madhya Pradesh as well really helped us. So it was like a wonderful experience.
Great. I'm actually going to Indore tomorrow, so I'm not looking forward to the heat. It's gonna be horrible.
All the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also have a great cast, which also includes Rajpal Yadav and Vijay Raz, both of whom have done a lot of great comedy roles on the screen. So, what was it like working with them? What did they bring to the process?
Oh, it was wonderful working with them, both of them. I've been a fan since I was a kid, actually, to be very honest. So I was hugely excited to be working with them, not just because they are great actors and they have a wonderful comic timing, but also because they have a wonderful worldview. They understand what we are trying to create here. They understand the politics of the film as well. So when you have such actors, it becomes a deeply collaborative process. So if they had any questions or any ideas, they've come up with great improvisations, especially that scene where Anuj is interviewing Pateria. It's a wonderfully improvised scene, wherein we are just like it was scripted, of course, but the last part of the scene is completely improvised by the two actors. So I had given them that freedom to express themselves because they have such a great knack of understanding the tone of these towns, of these small town, the psyche of Bundelkhand, UP, Uttar Pradesh. So that they're very much aware about that belt. So it was wonderful to have them.
And you also say you co-wrote the film with your father, Ashok Mishra, who's a two-time national award winner. So was that like intimidating or inspiring or both?
Oh, it's deeply inspiring. It's not intimidating, I would say, because of course he's my father, so there is a certain sense of we know each other, of course. So that's not there, but it's deeply challenging as well because he's always checking my ideas, and there are many disagreements. It's not quite straightforward. I'll be very honest, but his understanding of the humility with which he approaches every film, insisting on doing research at all times because we feel we know very little about the subject matter. We know very little about the world as well. Like we know pretty much about the spaces that we inhabit. But if we want to tell a story about Bundelkhand, about the police force in Uttar Pradesh, so we have to go there. We have to understand what the real stories are instead of trying to cook them up in the comforts of our house in Bombay. So that process was deeply inspiring, I would say, because we got so much content, and it was always a case of just fitting the pieces together, and not so much, trying to come up with ideas. Of course, you have to dramatize them, you have to stitch it all together, but there is just so much data on the table to play with and to create humor with. It becomes hugely interesting. It becomes it's a fun process, actually, because you're never searching for ideas. The ideas are there. It's just about how you collate them and arrange them.
And so this is not your first foray into the comedy space. You also directed Karunesh Talwar's special Pata Nahi Par Bolna Hai. So how did that come about first of all?
Me and Karunesh, we go back a long time. We've known each other since college. We've done theater together as well, and I'm a huge admirer of his brand of humor. I think it's deeply personal, especially Pata Nahi Par Bolna Hai was deeply personal in terms of the piece that he had created. And when he approached me with the material, I was like, wow, this is going to be real fun. So it was a lot of us friends actually coming together to create that, to help Karunesh, voice his ideas. And it's such a wonderful show. I mean, we had a lot of fun making it. Yeah.
And how challenging was that process? Because unlike, say, a film or a TV show, like a lot of the tricks of the trade or the standards, it's not stuff that everyone knows because not a lot of people are directing comedy specials in India. So, like, what were the learnings along the way, and like, how challenging was it?
Karunesh wanted it to be a deeply personal experience, and he wanted that it to feel like you are in that place. And also, he's a big admirer of small and intimate spaces, comedy spaces. So he wanted to create that feel. So when we shot it also in Habitat, we wanted to light it in a certain way so that it feels more intimate and that you are a part of that room and that you are being able to experience. Karunesh from different angles and different points of view, and get the synergy of the place going. So that was the idea that we were working on, for it to look very, very real and very, very intimate. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun to create that.
So Karanesh is there, and even Kunal Kamra seems to be a fan. He uploaded your short film Monday onto his channel. So did any of these interactions with, say, the stand-up comedy scene influence how you approach the comedy aspect of this?
Oh, absolutely. I deeply admire the stand-up comedy scene. There are some wonderful comedians who are being able to do really personal, deeply personal stuff, which is also an extension of their politics, I feel. So Kunal being one of them, I'm a big fan. Varun Grover. So these comedians are really pushing the envelope in terms of the kind of experience they're giving to the audience, which are also being becoming catalyst for conversations. So I really like. Just recently, I had a wonderful experience at Daniel Sloss's event, which DeadAnt did in Bandra, and it was so much fun to be able to experience that live, because there is so much the energy, the infectious energy of a great comedy show. I think nothing beats that.
Yeah, and internationally, you see a lot of comedians who kind of also are pretty good at writing for film or television and acting. Like very often, like film and TV can also be vehicles for their comedy. In India, you have Arun Grover, you have a handful of people, but it's not really taken off so much yet. Do you see potential for that? Do you see potential for the stand-up comedy voice to have a bigger role to play on the screen?
Absolutely, there is great potential. I think the humor is there, the observations are there, the stories are there. A lot of stand-up comedy acts are such beautiful stories, in a sense, such deeply personal, beautiful stories. I think it's just a case of transitioning from a text written for stage to a text written for cinema. I think if that transition can be achieved with a lot of collaborations, also, I think it's going to boom.
And is there an Indian comedian that you would want to collaborate with? We're going to leave Karanesh out of that because, I mean, he's a friend. So we'll leave him out of the pool.
I mean, there are so many. Varun Grover, as I just said, Kunal. There are so many. Zakir, wonderful comedians. I would love to collaborate with them.
And so we're running out of time. But before we go, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to now that the film is out? Your project is out in the world?
Yeah, so I'm currently doing the research for my next, again, starting from the square one, approaching it again with the same humility. So we're doing a research for another comedy that we are trying to do, trying to create. Perhaps sometime next year, I plan to shoot it. So yeah, it's going to be a long, arduous process of writing currently before we enter production next year.
And which one do you prefer, writing or directing?
Oh, that's a tough question, but I would say writing. To begin with, because it gives me great data for which helps me in my direction. So it becomes kind of an extension of my same voice, because I see myself as somebody who wants to tell a lot of stories, and stories come first initially in the written word. So I think that process of being able to germinate an idea, to be able to see it grow from nothing, from just a seed. I think I really enjoy that process, and it becomes an extension, essentially, direction of that process.
Amazing. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, Yasho. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you.